Good evening, everyone, and welcome to another Focus 2 to 3. Today, we are learning how to describe a city. If you've been here before, you might have seen me. My name is Michelle. I'm from Pakistan, and I am a teacher in Milano Miravili with Lisa.
Hi, and I'm Lisa. So you might have seen me before too. I'm from Ireland and I've been living in Italy for 2.5 years. And yeah, I work in the center of Milan with Michelle. So welcome to our 6 o'clock Friday webinar.
Okay, so today we have a useful focus. We are going to talk about describing your city, describing your neighborhood, and how to use negative forms. And very important when you are describing your cities are your nouns, plural or singular. Will you use there is, there are, and construction of questions. So this one is really informative. What do you think, Lisa?
Yeah, I think it's really useful because you often have to speak about different places. If you travel or visit another place, you might describe it. So not just describing your own city where you live, but also being able to tell people about other places too from traveling. And yeah, definitely with practice. So are there, is there, we use this a lot. And also there is, there are when we're describing anything. Okay, so when we're describing anything, so
True.
it's really good. So actually, Michelle, I have a question for you. How many cities have you lived in?
Um, three. I've lived in three cities.
Three. Okay, excellent.
And you?
Two. Because, well, where I'm from, I would describe it more like a town, so it's much
Hmm.
smaller. But then I lived in Dublin, so that was a proper big city. And then here in Milan. So so I've
Fantastic.
lived in different places, but only two cities.
So two cities and one town.
Hmm.
Okay, and
Technically
what
two towns.
two towns? How so?
Because before I moved to Milan, I lived in a small town near Novara in
Nice.
Piemonte. Yeah, so um, so that's why.
Nice. Okay, so what is the difference between a city, a town, and a village?
Okay, so well, a city is really, really big. So it's very big. I don't know if there's a certain amount of people, like population, that it has to reach before it's a city. But in my mind, a city is a big place where there are a lot of buildings, a lot of offices, every type of facility. So, like, I don't know, cinemas, bars, restaurants, everything. They have
Mhm.
everything. And it's very busy, and there are a lot of people living there. Whereas in a town, it's a lot smaller of a population, and
Mhm.
probably you don't have, like, for example, in this picture we see here a lot of tall buildings. You don't really have that in a town. It's smaller, and it wouldn't have like really, really big facilities. Maybe like a gym, maybe one or maybe a cinema, but it probably wouldn't have everything that a city would have. Um, and yeah, and usually everyone knows each other in a town, or most
Right.
people know each other.
And how many people, did you know everyone in your town?
Not everyone, but you would know, like, that person is a friend of someone you know or related to someone you know. Because where I'm from, the population is around 1,000 people.
Mm-hmm.
Small. Hmm.
Fantastic. So it's a bit small,
And then a
but
village.
amazing.
Yeah. Yeah. A village be much, much smaller than a town?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So a village, I guess, is like only a few hundred, maybe, people.
Yeah, I actually don't know the population difference between a village and a town. I just know that a
Yeah.
village is generally a small community in a rural area.
Mm.
So it usually doesn't
Hmm.
have fixed boundaries and a local government the way a town has.
Yeah, it's more just like almost a group of like houses, and it might have some small like shops and things, but it's really, really small.
Absolutely. Okay, I see
Hmm.
we have a viewer. If you're watching, please do write to us. Welcome. Let us know your name and where you're from. And let's start interacting as we walk through this focus.
Hmm.
So,
Exactly.
match the word with the picture. Would you like to read the nouns, please?
Yeah, of course. So we're looking to match these. So we have our options are um, park, train station, university, hospital, museum, castle, and zoo. Okay, so if you're watching, you can write in the comments. So you can just put A and what you think it is, B what you think it is. Okay, so based on the pictures. Okay, so do we have all, so we're in Milan right now. So do we have all
Hmm.
of these things in Milan? All of these
I don't.
places?
I don't know if Milan has a zoo. Does it?
I don't think there's a zoo, but I think there's a small aquarium, which is
Mm-hmm.
different. There's a small aquarium near the castle, I
True.
think.
Yeah. I
Excellent. So
don't.
we have Emanuela has joined us from Genoa. Welcome.
Hi, Emanuela. We're so happy you're here. If you'd like to participate, you can just write to us in the comments as we work through the answers. And of course, if you have any questions, go for it.
Exactly. Exactly. But yeah, I haven't been to the aquarium. I've just heard about it. But I don't think there's a zoo. Definitely not. I don't think there is.
No, I've never heard of the zoo in Milan.
Actually, speaking of aquariums, there's a
Hmm.
really nice one in Genoa. Have you been to it?
Yes, I have. This is true. It's
It just
massive.
it's really cool. Yeah, I love it. I went there last year.
It's absolutely, it was one of the highlights of my trip to Genoa.
Yeah. So I'm sure Emanuela knows it. Wh-
Absolutely. So,
when did Oh, sorry.
mhm.
I was going to
No,
ask,
no.
when did you go to Geneva?
I think in 2018,
Cool.
2017, 2018. I'm not sure. Or the other. One or the other.
Nice. Nice. Okay, so will we match these up? And if maybe Emanuela is writing them in the comments, but we can start matching.
Yeah.
Um,
So in the first picture, let's look at what we can see there. So in the first picture, we see, I'm going to go ahead and say it's a
mhm.
train which is moving. So it's a moving train, and that looks like a platform. A platform is where you stand and wait for the train.
Hmm.
So I would guess picture A could be the train station.
Yeah, I agree. I think so. And also it looks maybe like it's a train station or maybe also like a subway station. I don't know, maybe it's both.
Hmm, absolutely, like Garibaldi in Milan.
Yeah, exactly. Because sometimes they're together. Oh yeah, and Emanuela says in Genoa there is an aquarium. Yeah, there's a great aquarium.
Okay, would you like to do picture B?
Sure. So I think in picture B we have some students wearing their cap and gown. So they're graduating. So I guess they're graduating or they have a graduation at university, I think.
Yeah, that makes sense. They look like they are at university. So to graduate is when you finish university, you finish the program of study, and you leave out, you leave the university and start your life. Graduation is a noun, so just remember that. To graduate is a verb, and
Mhm.
graduation is a noun. It is the award of the diploma and sometimes the ceremony as well, in which the student becomes a graduate. So I know that sometimes these words can be confusing because they're very similar. They're just different in the word form. So to graduate, graduation, and a graduate.
Sorry.
No worries. And a
Two
graduate,
definitions.
we like to cover all our bases.
Exactly. Exactly. And I think you were going to say a graduate is a
Yes,
person as well. A graduate.
a
Like the
person who finishes university.
exactly. A graduate. So yeah, you can be a university graduate. Okay, a university graduate or a graduate.
You can also be a high school graduate. So we are using this term in the context of a university, but you can also use this in a context of medical school, law school, high school. It's um, it's quite
Yeah.
versatile.
Yeah,
Okay,
exactly.
so moving on to picture C. So it's a big room, and it looks like there are paintings on the wall. So where do we find paintings? Multiple paintings on walls? I would say it is a museum.
Exactly. Museum.
Hello,
Perfect.
Walter. How are you?
Hello. Thank you for joining, Walter.
Fantastic.
I have a question, Michelle. What's the difference between a museum and a gallery?
Ooh, that is a good question. So a museum, I believe a gallery is where you just have pieces of art,
Hmm.
right? So
Yeah.
an art museum could be called a gallery, but museums in general have many different things. You can have the history of natural history museum, so it's going to
Mhm.
be about dinosaurs and fossils, or you can have a museum on Christopher Columbus, which would just have pieces of the explorer's life. So I guess that would be the main difference.
Yeah, exactly. Because I think sometimes a thing can be called, like, for example, in London, the National Gallery is
Mm,
specific to art, whereas museum can be about lots of different topics, like you said. So it can be about anything, whereas gallery is generally associated with art. But also you can say art museum, you can say both.
Right, and I think a good example of this is Picasso's house, which has been turned into a museum.
Mm-hmm.
Right, so
Yeah.
obviously it has some art there, but it also has some pieces from his life. So it's the Picasso Foundation, and
Yeah.
in Milan we have the Prada Foundation, which is a museum, and it doesn't have many paintings, but it does have some beautiful pieces of couture.
Mm-hmm. Lovely. Really nice.
Uh, would you like to do picture B?
Excellent. Yeah. Um, although I cannot remember what we call these animals. Um,
I was going to ask you
so
raccoon.
anyway, we have two animals in the picture. They look really cute. Oh, I think I'm frozen. Oh, I'm back. Okay, from the options. So it's a zoo. What do we call these? Can you remember?
Raccoons, maybe? I'm not sure.
I don't think it's a raccoon. I think it's a type. Oh, a lemur. I think it's a
A
lemur.
lemur? A meerkat? I don't know. I'm sorry. They all look the same to me. I'm horrible.
Don't worry. I think it's a lemur,
A
but
lemur?
I'm not sure. I'm not sure. I think
Well,
so.
guys, Google it
Um,
and let us know.
exactly, exactly. So yeah, it's definitely a zoo. It has to be a zoo
hmm
because these are not normal animals.
Right. These animals are wild animals, meaning they're animals which you don't usually domesticate. You do not keep them as
I just googled it. It's a lemur.
pets. Fantastic.
Yes. Okay.
I want you on my next camping trip.
Yeah, to identify the lemurs in the trees. Okay, so picture E.
Right.
Um,
Sorry. Okay, picture E. Unfortunately, that looks like a picture we're all too familiar with in this period. Um, it there appear to be multiple rooms, and there are people wearing the same clothes. It seems like it's some sort of uniform. I would say they are wearing scrubs.
mhm.
That would make this a hospital.
Yeah, exactly.
So the word scrubs is the name given to the garment that doctors and nurses wear when they are working. So their uniform is called they're called scrubs, but not the white coat that they put on top of it.
Exactly. They're usually blue or green, usually sometimes pink.
Right, and if you've seen Grey's Anatomy, you know what I'm talking about.
Yes, exactly. And also there was a show called Scrubs. There was a sitcom called Scrubs as
Right,
well.
that was really funny.
Yeah. um, okay, and picture F is enormous, I would say.
Mm.
It's really, really, really big. Building. And it looks like it's in the mountains. So it looks like a really big castle.
Yep, I think you're right. It does look like a massive castle. So, guys, remember when you pronounce the word castle, the T is silent, so it's not castle, it's castle.
Hmm. Good point.
Okay, last picture. A lot of greenery. I see a bench. I see a fountain. I see a tree. And since the last word left is park, I'm going to go ahead and say this is a park.
A park where we all miss at the moment. It's going to the park.
Especially when the weather seems to be getting better and better every day.
Yeah, exactly. Okay.
Okay, let's move on. What is there in your city? In my city, there is a park and there is a university. So I just want to point out the use of there is here. So whenever you have a singular noun, you use there is. So there is a, so just one. There is a park, there is a university. We use there is. The verb to be is. Just remember that. It's important.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. And then if it's plural, we can say there are.
Mm-hmm.
There are, I don't know, for example, in Milan, there are different universities. So universities, so we can say plural.
Mm.
Or there are a lot of universities.
Mm-hmm. There are many museums.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. So guys, you can tell us what is in your city or what is there in your city. So to describe, so for example, in Java, or even where you're from, so just whichever you would like to describe to practice making sentences.
Okay, in the meantime, Lisa and I are going to practice with you. So, Lisa, what is in your city?
Okay, so in Milan or in Dublin?
Shall we talk about our hometown so we have something different to share?
Okay, perfect. So like I said, where I'm from, it's a town. So I can say in my town, there is um, a park where people play football.
Mm-hmm.
Um, there isn't a university. Um, there is a hospital. Um, and there is a police station. I know it's not there, but it's not on our list. But there is a police station because there isn't a train station. There's a police station. uh, what is there in your city?
In my city, there is a train station. There are universities.
Hmm.
There is a museum. There is
Hmm.
a zoo. There are hospitals. There
Hmm.
isn't a castle. And there are parks, but very small,
Mm.
minuscule. Like you can see the end. You can see the end of the park. So I don't know if it qualifies to be called a park.
Small parks. Well, even where I'm from, the park is basically used just for playing sports, so it's it's not really a park.
Okay,
It's
we're going to move on, but you guys can write to us and tell us what is there in your city or what isn't there in your city. Okay, so we've already covered this, what is there and what isn't there. Just pay attention to the format. There is and there isn't. Isn't is a contraction, so the full form is not. But when we speak colloquially, we just shorten it to isn't. So there isn't.
Hmm. Excellent. And the guys have started to give us some of their answers.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so Emanuela says, so in Genoa there is, okay, really good. So you put in the an. Just we'll give you the correct spelling because aquarium in English, aquarium. Okay, there is an aquarium. And then remember a fountain because an we put before A, E, I, O, and U. So before F, a fountain. A fountain. There are more museums, but there isn't. Okay, so if this is plural, so we would say there aren't big parks, or there aren't any big parks, we can say as well. There aren't any big parks. Really good, though. That's excellent.
Fantastic.
And then we have an answer from Walter as well. Do you want to read this, Michelle?
Sure. In Bologna, there are lots of parks. Don't forget that F. And there is a university. And there are 3 hospitals. Again, the F. And there are some museums. Again, the F. In my town, there isn't the zoo. Okay, so in my town, there isn't a zoo. Fantastic. Good work,
Okay,
Walter.
really good. So yeah, just remember to put the S. It's just a habit to add the S when you're talking about multiples. So more than one with plurals.
Okay, so we're just going to practice there isn't, there is, there are, there aren't. So you guys have an idea of how to use them correctly and how to pronounce them. Okay, so Lisa, is there a park?
Okay, so yes, there is a small park.
Okay, Lisa's frozen for a bit, but I'm sure she'll be right back. There she is. Fantastic. As we ask questions, you guys can also answer them. Write to us in the comments, and we can share your answers.
Okay, sorry.
No worries.
I think I'm back.
Yep, you're back. Okay, do you want to ask me the next question?
Sure. Okay, so is there a hospital?
Yes, there are hospitals. So if you notice, I put the S.
Okay, so plural.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Is there
Okay.
a train station?
No, there isn't. Is there a castle?
No, there isn't. Is there a zoo?
No, there isn't. um, is
Okay, so
is there? Oh, sorry.
no, no, no.
Is there a museum?
Yes, there is.
Okay.
But I only know of one museum. There could be more, but I
Okay. It's the only one you know.
yeah,
Excellent.
but see, it's a very big city, so there's one I know that's pretty close by, and they have amazing exhibitions and things like
Mm-hmm.
that. But well, the arts are not given that kind of importance.
Mm-hmm.
There are a couple of art galleries, a few art galleries actually, but there
Mm-hmm.
isn't one museum.
Okay. Cool. Perfect. So
Hmm.
will we go on to? Okay, perfect.
Okay, so now we are going to use the negative form. There isn't. So write to us and tell us what isn't there in your city. In my city, there isn't a big park. There isn't a castle, and there isn't. Yeah, but I think that's it. Okay, your turn.
So I can say quite a lot of things. So in my town,
Hmm.
so in my town there isn't a train station. There isn't a university.
Hmm.
There isn't a museum,
Hmm.
and there isn't a zoo. But we do have a castle. Okay, so there is a castle.
Nice. That's beautiful.
Yeah,
Right.
it's very very old though. It's very old.
But this is
uh,
my, I think, impression, maybe the stereotype of Ireland, that there are tiny, beautiful little castles, like tucked into every nook and cranny on the cliffs, overlooking this ocean.
yeah,
Is that
because
true?
see the thing is, our my town is called Manor Hamilton, and
Mm-hmm.
the castle belonged to the family that
Right,
founded that town,
right, right.
um, and they owned all the land. So they
Mm-hmm.
like usually in Ireland,
Right.
each
Mhm.
family, like original family, had a castle. So yeah, there are a lot of castles.
So, what do
Okay.
you mean? Every family had a castle.
The families who were the founders, or like
Mm-hmm.
so because each let's say county,
Mm-hmm.
so each region had like a family that were kind of the owners of that area.
Right, right.
So
Okay.
that's why there are a lot of castles.
Right. Okay, yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, it's cool.
Walter wants to know, is there a football stadium in your
And Walter is
city?
asking me a question. So, Lisa, in your town, is there, just rephrase this a little bit, is there a football stadium? Okay, stadium. So, in Milan, yes, there is. So, there is a football stadium. But in my hometown, no, there isn't. Really
What
good.
isn't there in Bologna and Genoa?
Yeah, so guys, tell us. Tell us what isn't there. And you can use other places, not just these ones, other places as well.
Mm-hmm, absolutely. Okay, now we practice the plural. And we are going to use some easy quantifiers when we use the plural. So tell your partner about the things in your city. Use the plural form of the noun. Would you like to read the example, Lisa?
Sure. So the positive example is, in my city, there are 3 parks and there are 2 universities. There is 1 hospital. So we have 2 plurals. So there are 3 parks and there are 2 universities. And then there is singular 1 hospital. And then negative, in my city, there aren't any museums. Okay, so usually when we say there aren't, we say there aren't any of something. So there aren't any museums or there aren't any parks. Okay, so it's more correct if we say there aren't any.
And we have the quantifier any over here. Just remember, we only use any with negative statements and questions. We never use it with positive statements. So whenever you don't have something, you can use any. Or if you ask someone a question, for example, do you have um, any pencils?
Hmm.
And the answer would be, I don't have any pencil.
Hmm.
But if you did have pencils, we would use the quantifier some. I have some pencils.
Hmm. Okay, and Walter has said, okay, so in my city there isn't a castle. Really good. So there isn't a castle, and there isn't metro. I think that's just a typo. Metropolitan subway. Okay, so here we can just use one or the other. So you can just say there isn't a subway. Okay, there isn't a
Hmm.
subway. Or there isn't. So subway is American, and then also you can say underground as well is another way to say it. But yeah, because here we say metro or metropolitan, so we can just say subway by itself because it's the word we use in English.
Right, and subway is the noun, but every city has their own nickname for it. Like in London, they call it the tube. In Milan, they call it the metro. In New York, they stick to subway. So many different ways to go about this, but just to be safe, subway is a generic good term.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, so I'm gonna go first. What isn't there in my city? Um, there in my city, there aren't any. Okay, I have to think really hard. That kind of a very big city. Okay, while I think, Lisa, would you mind going first, please?
Yeah, of course. So I might do some plurals in the positive and then in the negative. Um,
Mm-hmm.
just like the example we have here. So I can say in my city there are some shops. There are some shops and some restaurants. And there are a lot of pubs because it's Ireland. So there are a lot of pubs. Um, so I don't know how many, but a lot. Um, but there aren't any museums for sure. There aren't any museums, and there aren't any universities. Okay, there aren't any universities because there are just some schools. Some schools. Okay.
Okay, I've thought of something. In my city, there aren't any pubs. In my city, there aren't any bars. Um,
Mm-hmm.
there aren't any clubs, and there isn't. No, I think how many these aren't, and there aren't any discos.
Ah, okay. Excellent. Yeah, I don't. The only thing we have are pubs, the traditional Irish pubs.
Right, we don't have that, and I completely forgot that we don't have it until you mentioned that you did have it.
Yeah. Just in case any of you don't know, so a pub is the word we use to describe a bar. So in Ireland, Ireland is famous for having a lot of pubs. But again, a bar is different when we say it in English to a bar here in
Mm.
Italy. Because in a bar you have like a combination here. For example, you have usually a cafe. It can sometimes be a restaurant. It can also have alcohol. But a bar, when we talk about it in England, or a pub, it's just a place where you go to drink. Okay, a place where you go to have maybe a beer or a glass of wine.
Mm-hmm. And we also have something that we call bistros in English, right? Bistros and cafes, which they have them here as well, but the term could be a bit different,
Hmm. Yeah, that's
right?
true, actually.
Because I feel some of the bars could be tiny bistros.
Yeah, that's true because they also have kind of like mixed with a restaurant.
Yeah. So a bistro is a small Parisian style restaurant that's a simple meal. So something easy like a sandwich or a simple pasta and wine and coffee.
Hmm. Exactly. And Walter has said here, in my city, there aren't a lot of. So just remember, if you're using a lot of, and also aren't, it's the plural. So we would say there aren't a lot of jazz clubs. Okay, jazz clubs.
Walter's asking me a question. He says, Michelle, in your city, are there any parks? We do have several parks, but they are very small. So we don't have any big parks like you have in Bologna. But fantastic use of any in the question.
Really good.
Mm-hmm. Okay, shall we move on to
Sure.
the next? Okay, are there zoos in New York? So this is the question form, right? Would you like to read, Lisa?
Sure. So in this case, we can practice. So you can continue asking us questions to practice forming your questions. Okay. So you can talk about other cities. Okay. So other cities, and we can try and if we know the city. So for example, like I can talk about um, so I can talk about Dublin or, well, anywhere because we can have an idea of the city as well. So we want to practice using the plural form, okay, and the negatives as well. So our example here, the first one is, are there zoos in New York? Okay, are there zoos in New York? And yes, there are. So it's positive. Are there zoos in Antarctica? Okay. So in this case, no, there aren't. Okay, no, there aren't. Um, so the negative.
Right, and what you should just pay attention to over here is the construction of the question. We use are they when when we use plural nouns, for example, zoos, zoos, many zoos. But if you want to use a single noun, you can say, is there a zoo in New York, for example?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, um, so we'll just do a couple of practice questions and then move on. So Lisa, are there cinemas in your city?
So in my so if I talk about Dublin,
Mm-hmm.
yes, there are. So yes, there are. Okay, so Michelle, are there um zoos in your city?
Yes, there is one zoo.
Hmm, Okay.
But when I was a kid, I went to the zoo and I really wanted to see penguins. But I'm from a country
Ah,
which is close to the equator, so no penguins. So I
yeah.
was very disappointed that I still remember I was so sad. Where are the penguins?
Oh no. So you finally got to see some penguins when you went to Genova.
Exactly. Okay, we have two new nouns here, fountain and hotel. So the hotel is a place you go to spend the night when you go to a foreign city. You usually pay for a room, and a fountain is a monument which water comes out of. Yes, kind of proud of that description.
Excellent. Yeah, exactly.
Okay, so just to wrap up now, we're going to go through these questions and use the singular, plurals, and nouns we've learned in today's class. Okay, so first up, Lisa, where do you live?
Okay, so I live in Milan. Where do you live?
I also live in Milan. Do you
Shocking.
live in a town,
Um,
a
okay,
village, or in the city?
so I live in the city. Um, a little bit outside the city, but in the city. Okay.
Okay,
Um,
so let's describe what's there in our neighborhoods because we live in different neighborhoods. A
perfect. Okay, so
neighborhood is the
I was
area you live in.
I was just going to ask you what is the neighborhood. Sorry.
No worries.
Okay. So neighborhood. So I can describe what there is and isn't in my neighborhood. So it's the area around me. So there is a park, but there isn't a train station. I'm going to use plural. There are some shops.
Hmm.
There are some shops, but there aren't any hotels. Okay.
Fantastic.
Um, what about you, Michelle?
Um,
What there is there in your neighborhood?
in my neighborhood, there is a park, there is a subway station, there
Hmm.
is a museum, and there are hotels.
Okay.
However, or but there isn't a university and there aren't any castles.
Okay. Excellent. Really good. So, guys, we're almost finished this webinar. But if you want to, if you're still writing your description, you can just get it in and we'll take a look at it.
Mm-hmm.
But thank you so much, especially to Walter and also to Emanuela
Mm-hmm.
for your
Absolutely.
participation.
Thank you for joining us, guys, and commenting and writing to us. It really makes the lesson so much better for us as well.
Hmm.
We hope you've enjoyed this lesson. If you want to catch another one, it will be on in 10 minutes. So stick around. If you have a question, and you can look us up on Facebook, SOS My English School. You can ask us a question there, and one of the teachers, will answer. And we are also on Insta. Our school is Maya Milano Meravili. Bye, Walter.
Excellent. Okay. Bye, Walter, and bye, everyone else who's watching. Thanks so much.
Oh, you're so welcome, Walter. Thank you. Bye.
Always a pleasure. Bye.